We are being joined by a guy who's been all over the world working as a ring announcer, but he started right here in New England, and we knew him way back when. He is the voice of Ring of Honor Wrestling. I think he's got that title again. And he's our pal. He is the pride of Fall River, Massachusetts, Bobby
Jesus
Cruz.
Christ. Seriously? Everything was going good. Everything was going good, Crockett, until you mentioned Fall River. I mean, really. I mean, how many years is this rib going to go on, honestly?
That's your hometown, right?
No!
What?
Had this conversation the other night about my last charity event I did in Fall River where Todd Sinclair told Rich Palladino to announce me Fall River's own, and I got in the ring and whatever, and I came back to the production table, and the mayor then of Fall River says, "I didn't know you were from here." And I said, "That's because I'm not." Like, I don't understand. Never been to Fall River, never lived a day in Fall River, never stayed a night in Fall River, but okay, it's a running joke. Ha ha, everyone loves it. Jamie James, Todd Sinclair, you, great. Okay, Fall River, fine.
What's wrong with Fall River?
Oh, please.
Mike, this is only an hour-long podcast.
Please.
Okay.
Please.
Well, I do have to ask you, though, did you announce Brian Malonis from the wrong hometown on purpose?
I don't think so. I think I messed it up. Yeah, you can count on one hand the number of times I mess up in a year, I think. And I'm not being arrogant when I say that. I just really, really concentrate on detail. And it happened last year once, too, with for whatever reason, I went to announce Marty Skrull, and it was during a TV title match, I think. It was main event in-ring intros for TV in Atlanta. And I said, I think I said Manchester. And he looked at me right away. Like I said, Manchester, England, and he wanted to kill me. And he said afterwards, he was laughing. He's like, "What the hell was that?" I said, "I just went blank. I know it's Cambridge. I've announced you from Cambridge, England, whatever." I just kind of, whatever, Manchester came out. So then it became a running joke for a few matches after that where we did the in-ring intros where I would get it back to Cambridge and get it right, and he would make a little chuckle in my ear. But no, I think, what did I say, Malonis? Where did I announce you from?
I think you said Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
All right, it's a nice town. What the hell?
Portsmouth is nice.
Close enough.
It could be a slight payback for Fall River. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of the opposite, though, because Manchester's where I'm from is kind of a shithole these days, and Portsmouth is pretty nice.
It's not nice. All right, so I upgraded you.
Yes.
So, Brian, what are your first memories of dealing with Bobby Cruz over here?
Him not booking me for his promotion way back when.
I have similar memories.
Oh.
Let's unpack this a little bit, Bobby.
So this is nice. I'm getting excited now. I didn't know this was a shoot interview. This is going to be fun then. This is going to be a lot of fun. Go ahead.
Bobby, how did you start your promotion? Well, actually, how did you get into the whole wrestling deal?
Oh, really? We're going to do this? Oh, for Christ's sake.
The short version.
How many freaking times have I told this story? Okay, fine. So let me put on my nice guy voice and well, we all as kids were wrestling fans, right? Yeah, we were all wrestling fans. So when I was a kid, I was more into the production and the music and the announcing. Like, people had favorite wrestlers or whatever, but my favorite thing was Howard Finkel. So I always took an interest in more of that production side of it and the announcing, not the play-by-play so much, but much more the ring announcing. So in high school, baseball was my thing. I had always excelled at baseball more than any other sport, even though I played basketball and stuff. So going into my senior year, I was the captain of the baseball team, but I had played 3 years of basketball, and all I really could do out there was just stand out there and shoot threes. I was like a three-point specialist. I couldn't do anything else. I mean, I was fast, but I couldn't dribble two hands or anything like that. So an English teacher I had, he was the girls' basketball coach, and he knew I had an interest in doing some announcing. So he came up to me and said that their PA announcer had retired, basically. He was a longtime janitor at Old Rochester Regional High School. Not Fall River High School or whatever the freak you want to. No. He said, do you want to give it a shot? I know you always wanted to try announcing. So I had a decision to make. Do I do this or do I play basketball where I'm not really contributing or whatever? And I ended up making the decision, all right, I'll try doing the public address announcing for the girls basketball. So I started doing that in 92 and did that for a couple of years. And I think it was early 94. I just sent out some letters to different independent promotions. I don't even know how did I get the addresses of these places back then? There was no internet then, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't even remember. But I remember I snail mailed a bunch of different places, and Kowalski was one of them. God bless Walter, love him to death. He actually invited me to the school to go down there one night, and I went in and I was just watching stuff, and he said something like, I don't know, he threw out a dollar amount for me to train or whatever. And I said, no, I just want to be an announcer. I don't want to train to be a wrestler. And he said, yeah, but my announcer, they get thrown over the top rope. So you have to learn how to do that. And I'm thinking, all right, well, that's $2,000, whatever amount he quoted me. So that didn't last very long.
I don't remember seeing Mel Simons go over the top rope at all.
No, I wish he would have and landed on his head. That would have been pretty good, in my opinion. He might have been better.
Oh my goodness.
So Joe Eugenio from here in the Fall River and New Bedford area, had gotten one of my letters too, and it was convenient because it was so close to my house. And he called me and said they were actually looking for a ring announcer at that time. They were using a guy named Paul Lazon, who was an indie wrestler around, but he
Lethal
was
Paul.
Yeah, Lethal Paul. There you go. He was injured, so he was just basically filling in as a ring announcer at the time. So they had me go down, I don't know, it was that week or a week later to do just like 2 matches on their show. Everything went cool, and they offered me the job from there. So I think it was like around this time of year, March or April of '94, my first event at the legendary PAL Hall in Fall River. That's where I got my start.
Paul Azad, he booked us, right, Brian?
Yeah, he did. Did he book you?
Yeah. Lethal Pro Wrestling. You
went down to those shows? I don't remember.
When I ran my show, I booked both of you. I know I did. So let's stop the nonsense now, please.
So how did you come to run your own promotion? It was the UWF, right?
Oh, well, fast forwarding. Yeah, so
sure.
In my years with Yankee Pro, which became, it was New England Wrestling, then it became Yankee Pro, and then it became Top Rope, which I think it still is today.
Yeah.
I had taken the book over for Yankee Pro at the time, and Joe Eugenio had, towards the end of my run, Joe Eugenio had split. Basically, he had a brand. He did a brand split. He might have had the original brand split where he had Yankee Pro and South Coast. And Steve Ricard, who's the current owner of Top Rope, took over South Coast. And it was kind of the B brand guys that he wanted to bring in or whatever. And Yankee Pro, the one I was running, was more of the, the bot shows on the road, which Eugenio had a lot of at the time and stuff. And my hands just kept getting tied more and more. Steve and I didn't get along at all. I wanted nothing to do with him except to put him through a wall. And I basically said, you know what, F this, I'm going to go do my own thing. So that's really where it started, where, at the time, Gino Giovanni is, a very good friend of mine. He wasn't happy either. And we talked about, all right, let's try something. Let's go and do something on our own. And that basically created the UWF from there.
Yeah, that might have been the first time I remember seeing you was going down with Mucko, and Todd was actually refereeing on your shows, and we go down there and we went to, was it Jokers? Is that the name of the place?
Jokers, yeah. The old Billiards in New Bedford, the Jokers nightclub. That was it. I mean, we did, the first event I did was really, really good. It was in Whitman, Mass at the high school. It's called UWF Conquest. There was a guy who I had gotten hooked up with, mutual contact from an old indie wrestler, a young kid at the time named Kurt Daniels from the Brockton area. I think it was his name, Kurt Daniels. And he knew this guy named Mark Geppetta, who had 2 sons with muscular dystrophy and had done a wrestling fundraiser before with another promoter who I'm not even going to mention because he's not even worth the airtime. He basically found out I was doing my own thing, and he gave me a call through Kurt and said, hey, I want to do another one, but I want to do it with you this time. So we did that first event there, and, tried to step up everything as far as lighting and production and all that kind of stuff. It went really well, but it was basically a bot show. So it was kind of easy. I brought up Low Key and Xavier from down in New York, which, hadn't been done very often as far as coming up here to New England, and just tried to do some different things. I probably should have stopped after that first night. It would have been great. UWF would have been the greatest thing since Chaotic Wrestling.
Yeah, I do remember you were one of the only people that I knew of that was like bringing people in to do your shows. I remember Steve Carino, you've had a long time friendship with. I don't even really know how that started. How did you get to be friends with Steve Carino and have him come to your shows and do all the stuff?
It was actually towards the end of my booking with Yankee Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a show in New Bedford, and Yankee Pro, like I said before, had a lot of the bot shows. So you're supposed to bring in quote unquote 2 or 3 names to be on top of the card. And right around this time is when ECW was folding, and Eugenio had asked me, "Well, what do you think?" And Carino was the ECW champion prior, and I said, why don't we try him? I mean, there's a drive-in, and it's just something different. So I brought him into a show in New Bedford, and I was not only booking at the time, I was still ring announcing the shows. And he actually talked to me after the show, and he said, "I really like your ring announcing. I run shows down in Pottstown, Pennsylvania once a month on Sunday nights. I'd like to have you come down and ring announce for me." So that was the first time in meeting him, and I started doing that. And there was other, New England talent down there too. The Dams were going down there. Gino Giovanni was going down there as a wrestler and then a commentator. So there was some New England representation down there. And first I was announcing half the show. And then basically he made the decision he wanted me to announce all the shows. And from that point on, I'm sure we'll get into it, whatever. But I mean, my career just snowballed from there. And that was my first foray out of New England, which was a huge deal. But, up until that point, for the first, say, 6-7 years, I had just announced in New England. I had done every state in New England, but I've never been outside of New England. So Carino was the one that got me outside of New England and then eventually outside the country.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a second. But I want to talk about the UWF show that I remember is, I think, the one where you bled.
Bobby bled?
Yes. He gigged as the owner of the company. I don't even think you were you weren't managing on the show. You would just would come out and people knew that you were the owner.
Yeah.
So how did that all come about?
Yeah, it's so my thing always going into this, and if I was running my own promotion now, I'd be even more about this, is like, an owner / promoter or whatever should not be their top guy, should not be involved or anything like that. At the time, because I was living so local, I was living one town over from where we were doing the shows in New Bedford, just talking to Carino and thinking about some different things, trying to put a local twist on it, trying to get in the local paper or whatever. So basically come up with this storyline where Carino, everyone that knew, quote unquote, on the inside knew how close Carino and I were as friends and stuff. And it basically had wanted to do a turn with him. And the only person that made sense for him to turn on would be me, because everyone knew how close friends we were and stuff. So he laid me out, and apparently the whole world saw the blade job, which is very exciting. Todd Sinclair tells me all the time. And I wanted it to kind of like be shock and awe, because at the time, the beer distributor I work for now, they had come on as a sponsor and were, donating stuff and giving us money per event and stuff like that. So there's a lot of local people, a lot of people that knew me at these shows. And I said, it doesn't make any sense if Carino just verbally lays into me or whatever. Who's really going to care? So I wanted it to be something shocking.
So just bleed all over them.
Yeah, the thing was I was going to bleed like a stuffed pig, and I did, but apparently everyone saw why or how. So whatever, live and learn. I talked to Carino about it before, because after Carino's supposed to, kind of, not to get too inside here, even though this is about nothing, right? The podcast is about nothing.
Yes.
Was supposed to pull me into him basically, and whatever happened, and he didn't really pull me in. So I was kind of in broad daylight, just kind of there. So I've never watched it, and I don't plan on it, because people like Todd Sinclair have told me enough times the details of it. So I'm pretty sure I don't need to see it. But yeah, I actually just saw it today. I was looking for one specific picture on Facebook of something with my daughters. And so I'm going through, pictures from years and years ago, and the close-up I have of me just with blood all over my face is I actually came across that. So how did I know that was going to come up today? I knew it.
That's on your Facebook, and we have to grab that and steal it and put it up on Twitter.
It's there, buried there somewhere. I want to say years ago, Facebook pulled it down because it was too graphic, but I can't imagine today it would be too graphic. All it was me kind of looking up with blood all over my face. So
So Bobby Cruz, a ring announcer, has gotten color more times than me.
Really?
Yep, I've only ever even bled hard way one time.
Oh my goodness. Well, it won't happen again. I'm done. I'm done with that. That was one and done.
Okay. So, what are your overall thoughts about being a pro wrestling promoter?
It sucks.
You wouldn't do it again?
I don't think so. I mean, the guy who I mentioned, Mark Chapetta earlier, who I did UWF Conquest with, and then I did the shows, 5 or 6 years ago now that you guys were on in Canton and Fall River. We talked about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, about doing another one. But he reached out to me yesterday, ironically enough. He's ran a comedy show, I think it was last fall or last winter, that was a good success. And he knew I was friends with Taylor Williamson, from the runner-up from America's Got Talent, I don't know, whatever season, whatever.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, and so he reached out and said, hey, can you put me in contact with him, because I'm going to do another comedy show in October, which indirectly told me that the wrestling show is not on his radar coming up again if he's talking about doing another comedy show. So, I mean, that's the only way I would do it. It's something like a fundraiser for, kids or something like that. I would do a one-shot, but I would never run my own promotion again. No, never happen. I swear by it. I'll get married again. Absolutely. I'll never run my own promotion full time again.
Wow. All right.
Strong words.
Does this have anything to do with the time that you had a keg under the ring?
Oh, what a bullshit. You know what I mean? This is where I almost lost it. If I didn't want to punch Steve Ricard in the face before, I definitely wanted to do it this time. So Jokers, I mean, you guys were there. Jokers was a small venue. You couldn't put a regular, say, like 20 by 20 ring or in there or anything. So Joe Eugenio had a ring, because we had kind of made up at this point, even, after I had left, and we stayed in contact. And he had a 16 by 16 ring, which was perfect for that venue. And we did 1 or 2 events there, no problem. And it came to this, I think it was the last event we ran there, ironically enough, where they go to bring the ring and nobody can find the spring. Like, the spring for this ring just disappeared. And I swear to this day, and even though Steve and I get along fine now, I've worked a few fill-in spots for him as recently as a few months ago. I swear Steve Ricard hid this spring back at where, Eugenio kept his storage of equipment and stuff. There's no doubt he hid the spring.
Because you're kind of running opposition to him, right? And essentially.
Oh, yeah. And we had talent coming in. I mean, like you said before, I brought in talent from the outside. So talent coming from Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey. Now, they're well on their way. What am I going to do? Call everybody and send them back, no matter how close they were? Or do we try and make the best of it and, run the event so everyone gets paid, everyone gets taken care of for their travel and stuff? So I made the decision to run it, and the only way we could figure out was to take ironically enough, being a beer salesman, take a beer keg and put it under, basically use that as the spring. This thing was, it made the ring like a concrete walkway. And we had a locker room meeting before the show, and I told everybody, I said, this is the situation. Do not risk injury. Do not do anything stupid. Pretend you're wrestling on a street, basically, because I didn't want anything to happen to anyone, because it certainly wasn't their fault. But, that was a frustrating thing. And I think that might have been the event where I kind of realized, you know what? As far as this area in southeastern Mass, Eugenio had ruled for so long. I'm kind of like, all right, I'm fighting, and I'm fighting an enemy that you can't win, really. And even though Joe and I had a good relationship and stayed in contact, it wasn't the same with Steve, and never had been until we got older. Where I basically just said, all right, I'm just going to take the UWF and put it under the Top Rope Promotions banner, basically as a third brand for them. But that's what ended up happening. So, it was, there's so many reasons why I would never run my own promotion again. The keg ring is one of them.
I'm sure there was some young kid, though, who just still took these massive bumps in it.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I really don't. I just remember just wanting to get through the night so nobody really got hurt, which nobody did. Thank God, because nobody signs up for that. That wasn't good.
So were you still going down to Pennsylvania was it the PWF for Steve Corino?
Yeah. It was Sunday nights once a month, which at that time it really sucked because Pottstown, I mean, Pennsylvania is far enough away as it is, but Pottstown is out in the woods. It's even farther than you would say Philly or anything like that. So we do the shows, and then I would drive back overnight and then go to work the following morning on a Monday. It was tough. And I was, married at the time, and luckily she was, very understanding of the schedule that I was going to do that 2 days once a month and whatever. But, I'm glad I did, because it not only, I continued to build a friendship with Carino, but also it got me noticed by multiple eyes, which I'm sure is your next follow-up question, so I won't elaborate. Okay, go ahead.
Well, yeah, eventually Steve asked you to be his personal ring announcer for Ring of Honor, right? I don't know how long after that this was.
Oh, you fast-forwarded. See, I should have just kept going.
Shit.
That's okay,
you should have kept going.
It's okay, I love you.
Christ's sake.
So, yes. So what happened first was everyone, I'm sure, well, everyone above like 30 probably remembers the old AOL IM, right? What a great creation.
Mm-hmm.
So Thanksgiving of 2001, I got an IM from Carino. He was wrestling and working for 01 in Japan on a mad schedule at that time. After ECW folded, really 01 had become his home. And he wasn't only wrestling over there a lot, but he was also kind of like the Gaijin, as they say, foreign agent. He would, handle bookings and travel and all that stuff for the outside Japanese talent. And he sent me a message. He said, hey, 01's going to run 2 USA-themed events in Tokyo in January. They want you to ring announce them. And I'm thinking to myself, all right. So I've gone from New England to the PWF, and then right away like this, a few months later, here comes like going to Japan. Are you kidding me? So I'm thinking, all right, am I on the hook for airfare or whatever? Because, we've all been there, right? You have
right.
to, sometimes you have to eat it to get someplace, basically. And he got right back to me and said, no, they'll take care of your airfare or whatever. Just want to know if you'll do it. Here's the dates. And when it was right after the first of the year in 2002. And I said, absolutely. So I went and did that. I remember Korakuen Hall, where both events were. It was just, I just remember standing there and being like in awe. We're doing a rehearsal and stuff because they wanted to know. They had, regular 01 Japanese talent, but they also had American talent like AJ Styles and Low Key, and they had the Ballard Brothers from California and Tom Howard from California. So it was like kind of 50-50, but they wanted to do it, especially my intros, the way I do it. So like their ring announcer, his name was Oki. He would call me teacher. And I finally said, what? I said to Carino, why is he calling me teacher? And Carino said, because you're teaching him the American way to do the ring announcing. That's how they want you to do it. I said, okay. I remember I was in, I announced Carino. I think Carino was in the ring. I want to say he was tagging with Tom Howard, but I could be wrong, but whatever. But Carino's in the ring. And I'm just standing there in the middle of Korakuen Hall. The place is packed. And it was a live, I don't know if it was live TV or live pay-per-view, but it was definitely being broadcast live. So my first event ever in Japan is being broadcast live. And Carino comes up to me and says, as I'm in the ring, there's a lot of Japanese people here. And I just remember thinking to myself, okay, that was like a calming, like a kind of relief thing, like, don't be so stressed, everything's cool. But he did point out that, there was a bunch of black suits in the front row, like a bunch of them. He said, you see all those guys? I said, yeah. He goes, those are the Yakuza. I'm like, oh, Jesus, okay. I know what Yakuza is. And basically saying if you screw up, it's on their dime and you're going to eat it. So I'm like, but yeah.
You wouldn't have been on this podcast today.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have 2 daughters. So we did another night there, which was like a Samurai TV taping, which was really cool. And the same thing happened a year later, where they wanted to do the USA thing again, but this time they were doing, I want to say Korakuen Hall and Differ Ariake, which is where Noah used to run a lot. I can tell. We have unlimited time, right? I can tell this story.
Yes, of course.
This is a good story. Okay, this is a good story. So Malonis, you remember we were in Pittsburgh recently for TV, and I mentioned to you I had a good story about how I was almost late by changing?
Yes.
Okay. Malonis has this running joke. Crockett, I don't know if you ever noticed, but everyone says that I always get changed at the last minute.
Yes, you're notorious.
You do! You gave us a late start in Nashville.
Well, that's because I gassed my leg open. But anyway, so so I mean, I'm out there, especially for like Ring of Honor TV tapings. You're talking 4.5 hours. I don't want to wear a suit any longer than I have to. So, for example, if I'm going out there at 7, I'm going to start changing at 6:40, 6:45, whatever. This second 01 trip didn't start off well because I got to I was supposed to go Providence to Detroit, Detroit to Tokyo. And I got to Providence, and my Providence to Detroit flight was canceled because it was snow or whatever. It was January. So they told me, this was the old Northwest Airlines. This is probably why they're not around anymore. They told me, hey, we've got a flight going out of JFK in New York. If you want to go downstairs, rent a car, we will tell them you're coming. There was time to do it. They will tell them you're coming. So, they know you're going to be a little bit late, but you'll make the plane or whatever. So I fly down. I literally fly. Like I rented a Mustang. I was flying down from Providence to JFK in New York, drop off the rental, get to the ticket counter. And I should have known because nobody was at this ticket counter. Like the flight was going to leave at like 12:30 and I got there at like noon. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, I still have a little bit of time, but of course, international flights, not a good idea. So, there were actually Japanese people working the ticket counter at Northwest at JFK. I go up there, and I'm already worried because nobody's around. And they said, where are you going? And I said, Tokyo. And there was a man and a woman, and the man just looked at me and he goes, not today. And I said, oh, come on. I said, Providence didn't tell you I was coming down here, whatever. I said, no, there's no way. The flight is already basically, leaving the gate. We can't get you there. So then now they booked me the next day, basically on the same flight. I get a hotel right near JFK in New York. And now, called my wife at the time, and I'm telling her, I said, do me a favor, sign into my AOL IM account, get to Carino, because that's the only way to communicate with Carino when he was in Japan at the time, and tell him what happened, whatever. So Carino actually got back to her and said, tell him no problem. We'll have somebody to pick him up at the airport in Tokyo, whatever. So my schedule's thrown off because, with the Japan time difference and stuff, they bring in a couple of days early. So now I was going to get in 1 day early, which really turned into a half day early. I get there, check into the hotel, and just kind of crash out. And the next day, my phone rings in my room, and I'm like, what the fuck? Because I didn't set an alarm. I'm like, I never need an alarm. I have like an internal clock. I'll be fine. It's Carino calling me from the lobby. Everyone's downstairs at the bus. He's like, where are you? He's like, obviously you're in your room, but are you coming? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I was just grabbing my stuff. He woke me up with that phone call. I bolted up. I jumped up, went in the bathroom, shaved as fast as I could, took a shower, grabbed my stuff, and got down, whatever. We go to Differ Ariake. Now, at this time, Carino, the PWF that Carino was running was going to turn into a company called World One, and it was going to be in conjunction with 01. We were doing a pay-per-view at Differ Ariake. On the pre-show, this is where the announcement was being made to the Japanese media and stuff. Carino was announcing this. So I'm looking at the clock. It's 6 o'clock pay-per-view. It's like, I don't know, 5:35. He's making the announcement. I'm looking at the clock. Okay, everything's good. I want to watch him make this announcement. It's kind of cool. All the media's there, whatever. I'm watching. He finally finishes, I don't know, say 5:40 something, 5:42, say. And I'm like, all right, now I got 18 minutes to go get changed. I had bought this USA flag bow tie and cummerbund because I was wearing tuxedos at the time. I'm like, this is cool. It's 01 USA. I've got this USA gimmick. 3 minutes into getting changed, I hear, teacher. Now, I told you, Oki, their ring announcer, calls me teacher. He's coming running down the hall. Teacher, we go. I'm like, Oki, we got 15 minutes. What are you talking about? He's like, no. Well, come to find out, that clock was 15 minutes slow. So this is a live pay-per-view in Tokyo. So I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I didn't get on everything I needed to. I mean, as far as what I wanted to get on. I got on the regular tuxedo stuff, bolted to the ring. I hopped in the ring, standing in the corner as the opening video for the pay-per-view wrapped up. That was easily the closest I've come to shitting my pants as far as getting dressed too late. So that's anytime anyone says anything while you really get dressed late, I always bring up that story. Nothing will compare to that. If I ever do that on a live Ring of Honor pay-per-view, I'm screwed.
So that didn't scare you into changing earlier?
No.
No, I can confirm it has not.
But what it did do is it made me confirm that, check that when I got to a building to make sure the clocks were right. But so many of us now, obviously, you just look at what's the time? Oh, you look at your cell phone. Well, your cell phone is going to be right, so that's all good. But no, I don't get changed. I think Malona said to me in Pittsburgh, I think I got changed 25 minutes before I was going to head out there.
Yeah, you were dressed early.
Yeah, Malona said, "Oh my God, what's wrong? Why you changed so early?" I think my response was I was bored.
It was. That's exactly what you said.
Yeah, I got changed early. What the hell?
See, I'm a notorious early changer. It doesn't matter usually where I am on even on Sunday night in Columbus. I was only managing Bruiser in the main event, and I still got dressed 45 minutes before doors. So.
Oh God! I mean, maybe it's different with a suit or whatever. I don't know, but but there's other times I see Ian Riccaboni, our tremendous play-by-play guy. He'll walk into the building with what he's going to wear most of the time. Kevin Kelly used to do the same thing, so they're wearing it for hours and hours, these suits and stuff. I'm like, there's no way. I don't know. It's just me. I probably won't. I'm not going to change. If I haven't changed yet, I'm not going to change now. I'm almost at the end of the road here. So it's just the way I do it. It's what it is. Did I answer the question? What was the question anyway?
I don't know, but I think timeline wise, are we at ROH now? You as the personal ring announcer for Steve Corino?
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, because you jumped over that, so I recap. Hey, when you edit this together, just edit you asking the question about me going to Japan and stuff, and then everything will be good. You'll look smart.
There you go.
So so there was one night, still the AOLIM. I think it was in 2003. Corino had said, "Hey, I'm going to go back to Ring of Honor." And I had heard of Ring of Honor. I'd never seen it or anything. Said, "I'm going to go back to Ring of Honor. I'm going to feud with Homicide. I had this idea I want to do with this, have my own personal ring announcer." And he's like, "I want you to do it. You'd be interested or whatever." So he kind of ran the idea by me, and I'm like, "Oh, this sounds amazing," because as a ring announcer, you're just out there and doing the straight ring announcing 7, 8, 9 matches, whatever. This was so much different. He and his pal Guillotine LeGrand at the time were going to come up with these different lists. And I think the first one we did was in Fairfield, Connecticut. And the list was all the championships that Corino had held over the years. And it was just so long. It kept going. And then they wrote in halfway through, I would go over to one of Corino's young boys and get a bottle of water for a water break. And fans were just it was entertaining to them. But the more we did it, it became more and more pissed. And that was fun to me. I love to piss people off. This is the greatest thing ever. I've always just been a ring announcer, and you announce this guy, okay, here's his opponent, whatever, and you're out of the ring, 8 times. But this was different, and there was some memorable ones. We did one in the Rexplex, the old Rexplex in New Jersey, with it was a 4-way with Corino, Chris Daniels, Samoa Joe, and CM Punk. I just remember, I didn't know any of those guys at that point, really, other than Corino. I just remember looking up once and looking at Samoa Joe like he wanted to just choke me out and kill me. And then there was another one we did in up near Buffalo, New York. It was Corino and Punk in a one-on-one match. And I think my intros went 20 minutes, and the match was a 20-minute Broadway. The intros went as long as the match. So that was a lot of fun. That definitely was a lot of fun. And it ended up getting me in front of Ring of Honor's management's eyes, and which ended up leading to me, doing what I've been doing for 14 years now. So I've said for years and years, and I'll always say that there's 2 people that helped my ring announcing career the most, and it was Steve Corino and Carrie Silkin, because Steve obviously saw me, got me out of New England, got me to Japan, got me into Ring of Honor, or at least in front of Ring of Honor's eyes, and then Carrie ultimately, which we're segueing into now, made the decision to bring me into Ring of Honor full time.
And you've been there since 2004, full time as the lead ring announcer, right?
Yeah. It was I want to say October or November of 2004. Carrie called me, and he said, "Hey, if the ring announcing position becomes available, would you be interested?" And at the time, they were using a former ECW ring announcer who's still, once again, someone's not worth mentioning. And please. So
how dare you talk about Rich Palladino in that manner?
No, not him. So I told Carrie, I said, if it becomes available, yes, I would be interested. So he said, okay, give me an hour. And within a half hour, they called me back and said, okay, it's available. And I remember the guy they were using at the time. There was some backlash at the time. The old Ring of Honor message board that Gabe Sapolsky would monitor was like, who's this guy, whatever. We know this other guy from ECW, and he was there from day one, whatever. I mean, we're literally talking 2 years into the company, so big deal. So I put something out and said, hey, listen, I'm honored to be made the quote unquote full-time ring announcer for the company. I'm going to do the best I can. And, I offered to reach out to the guy who was preceding me, and basically just, no hard feelings. I mean, and I'll get into this a little more in a minute, but I actually, my first full-time weekend with Ring of Honor was up here. It was in, I want to say Dorchester. We were in so many places around Boston, but just say Boston area, and then Elizabeth, New Jersey the next night for Weekend of Thunder with Jushin Liger. And,
that was Revere, I think.
Revere?
Yeah,
okay.
You ran Revere.
So a good friend of the prior ring announcer had pulled me aside that night and said basically that he had read the statement that I put out about reaching out to him or whatever, and just said it was BS and it was fake and he, whatever. So once I heard that from a reputable source, a good friend of this guy, I'm like, all right, screw this guy. I'm not even gonna say anything to him. He can go to hell. So then I became the enemy somehow because I said I was going to reach out to him and I never did, which is complete BS. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's like we have Nick Lendl now with Ring of Honor, Pittsburgh guy, great kid, just wants an opportunity and stuff. And if it comes a year from now or 2 years from now, whatever, a Ring of Honor comes to me and said, hey, we want to go with Nick. He's younger, blah, 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 whatever. What am I going to do? Get mad at Nick? Because that's the way the company wants to go? It's so stupid and childish. So, that ring announcer who they used to use, who always looked like he had his suit wrapped up in a ball in his bag, didn't take any pride in appearance or anything like that. I really, to be honest, I didn't give a shit, and I still don't give a shit what he thinks. He actually showed up a couple of years ago in New York City at the Hammerstein, like at a house show we did or whatever. I walked him backstage, and he was there, and I'm like, oh, man. Like, do I just, obviously I could have pulled strings and got him out of there. But I'm like, whatever. And he even made a comment. He said, I'm still waiting for that apology. And I'm like, I just kind of walked away from him. So, yeah, whatever. It's just, some people, as you know, whether it's life or wrestling or whatever, and, family, some people are worth your time, some people aren't. And he's clearly just someone who's not. And, I took a lot of pride in stuff, when he actually showed up. Remember when they relaunched ECW? They did the second ECW One Night Stand. And then a couple days later, in New Jersey, they were doing the ECW relaunch. And this guy showed up, assuming that he was going to be the ECW ring announcer, and they kicked him out and sent him home. So, and then I think it was a month later, WWE called me to go work for them. And I'm like, okay, this is so ironic. I love it to do it again. I love it. So.
Why would anybody just show up to WWE assuming, I'm hired, I must be hired?
Yeah, because he had announced the One Night Stand, so parts of the One Night Stand. So I figured, he just thought, whatever. The guy's a moron, so who knows?
So let's talk about you working a little bit for WWE, and that's 2006, right?
Yes, 2006. Yep.
And how did that all come about?
It was quick.
From 2006 to 2006.
Yeah, definitely 2006, 2006, absolutely. So I had reached out to them. I had sent them promo DVD basically with some of my stuff from Ring of Honor. Just to look into it. And they called me. I want to say it was September of 2006. It was the week before they were doing TV in Worcester. So I had missed the first call that I got from Jennifer Good from Kevin Dunn's office. I had missed the call. She left me a message saying, we'd like to speak to you about an opportunity to audition as a ring announcer. Call me back or whatever. So before I called back, when I heard the message, I'm like, well, obviously they want me to go to Worcester and do a dark match or whatever. And so I call her back, And she said, oh, and, and whatever it was, 3 weeks later, we're doing Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and we'd like you to come out. And I'm like, oh, I figured you asked me to do Worcester. I said, no, we got a bunch of stuff going on leading up to that. We'd rather just have you come out to Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And I said, oh, okay, that's fine. And she said, our executive producer, which she didn't say Kevin Dunn by name, but that's the executive producer, said he looked at your reel. He was impressed with, you seem, your experience you obviously have and stuff like that. He said, we want to put you right on TV. And I said, oh, okay. So she said, usually we have ring announcers come in, they do a doc match or two, and then we make a decision from there. But he's confident he just wants you to put you right on TV. So I went to Oklahoma City and I did Heat. It wasn't Sunday Night Heat. It was just Heat. It was Heat at that point. And, did that episode. And the next night was Tulsa, which was SmackDown, but also ECW. There was one doc match. So they had me do the doc match and then just hang out there and watch like SmackDown to pick up pointers or whatever, how they do things, which I already knew how they did things. So whatever. So I, it was Monday, Tuesday, get home on a Wednesday. Friday, they call me and ask, oh, how do you think it went? And I said, oh, I think it went fine. And, she says, well, we think it went fine too. Everyone we've talked to said you were good to work with or whatever. We want you to come out next month to Chicago and St. Louis again. I said, okay. So here we go again. Same thing. Go out to Chicago, which is to this day, the biggest crowd I've ever announced from, the Allstate Arena. I think it was over like 19,000 for Raw that night, which that was very interesting because I was obviously more relaxed because it was my second time and they liked something in me. So they called me back and were flying me out there again. And I had put my bags out in a specific locker room. And then, I don't know, I would sit down with Lillian Garcia just to go over like the info of the weights and the hometowns of different guys that I was doing for Heat. And I went back there like an hour later and my stuff was in the hallway. And I'm like, oh, man, what did I do?
Oh, no.
I pissed somebody off. And it ended up being that it was when John Cena was feuding with K-Fed. And I guess K-Fed's people had taken my bag and put it out so he could have his own locker room or whatever. So it was, I'm like, wow, K-Fed. I think I'm more well-known than K-Fed in 2018, but
Probably.
but yeah, so it was a good experience overall. I mean, it's something I always wanted to do, hold the WWE microphone. When they originally called me, they said, hey, if this works out, you have to leave Ring of Honor. And of course, I did an initial pause. I was like, oh, yeah, because Ring of Honor had been so good to me, whether it was Carrie or Gabe and Sid and everyone in the office. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. If it works out, and I want you and you want me, I have to leave Ring of Honor. I get it. It was, some good stuff that came out of it too. I mean, I made some friends like Dave Lagana. I had met for the first time there, and then we became closer. Became friends in Ring of Honor, and then he was just at Supercard in New Orleans. You guys have dealt with Cena. One of the things I remember was right around this time is when the Marine was coming out.
Yeah.
The first Marine, the one he was in or whatever. So I remember that I would have to plug merch and say the Marine shirt was on sale or whatever. And so at that time, because he was doing the Marine, they wanted him on both shows. So he was doing Raw and SmackDown. And he came up to me the day after I did Oklahoma City, came up to me in Tulsa. I was standing outside. He sought me out and he actually said, hey, I thought you really stood out last night. You were really good, blah, 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 whatever. Which is cool. And it gave me the first look into, someone like that, how they are,
Yeah.
There's no reason for someone on that level to seek out a ring announcer coming in cold to say, hey, I thought you were really good last night or whatever. So that got a conversation with us started. And once he found out it was from Massachusetts, then we were like best friends anytime I was there from that point on. And the last night I did with them was in St. Louis. We were staying at the Hyatt Regency in downtown St. Louis. It was the same night that the World Series was in town, the Tigers and the Cardinals. So he invited me to go. It was with him and a bunch of people. And I'll never forget because I've never seen this done before and I probably never will again. Our group that we were in drank the hotel out of every beer they had. Like they literally came up to Cena and said, we don't have any more beer. Never mind not having this kind of beer or this kind of, he said, we have no more beer. And he said, all right, just start sending Jaeger bombs. I'm like, oh my God. This is like, I'm not a hard booze guy. I'm like, all right, this is going to get a little crazy. But,
you didn't have a couple cases in your carry-on?
no, I know, right? Beer salesman. I should have. So to fast forward a little bit, how that kind of ended and didn't happen for me, I did that second run with Chicago and St. Louis, flew home on Wednesday, had to fly out to Ohio for Ring of Honor on Friday, and then we had Chicago on Saturday. So I announced the WWE and Ring of Honor within a span of 5 or 6 days in Chicago. Flew home that Sunday, and I was just, reading the dirt sheets and stuff online, and I was reading how the ECW house shows were drawing like 600-700 people. And they had made a decision that they were going to scrap doing standalone ECW house shows, and they were going to combine them with SmackDown house shows and just put like 2 or 3 ECW matches on those. So I remember just sitting in front of my computer being like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I said, because, the whole point was Justin Roberts was announcing Heat. He was announcing at the time, he was backup for Lillian for Raw. And when they did the ECW brand, they made him, gave him his own brand, this kind of promotion, which is cool, made him the ECW ring announcer. So they then needed a backup for Lillian. So that's what I was going to do. Let's do the Raw house shows because she didn't do house shows, and do Heat and fill in for on Raw when she was off. So I read that. I'm like, shit. Like, okay, what does that mean now? Because obviously when you're doing that with ECW, you're going to need less personnel. And the next day, I got a phone call from Jen Good at WWE saying, and I'll never forget the quote, our need for an additional ring announcer just greatly diminished. and I said, yeah, I know. I read it yesterday. But, it is what it is. What are you going to do? And she said, well, Kevin wants to know if you'll do some like international stuff for us, like international tours or whatever. And, they do international tours every so often, but it's not a constant thing. And I said, well, what does that mean for Ring of Honor? And she's like, well, you still have to leave Ring of Honor. And I kind of thought about it quick, and I said, no, I'm really not interested in doing that. And if it's only going to be, say 3 or 4 tours a month for a week at a time, then no, I'd rather just, stay in Ring of Honor. So I tell that story and people say, oh, that sucks or whatever, the timing. And I said, well, timing could have been worse because obviously to this day, I have a full-time job as a beer sales rep. Imagine if WWE had, brought me in as was the plan. And then, 2 months later, the ECW house shows crash and then they get rid of me. And now I've lost that and I've lost Ring of Honor and I've lost my real job. So I've never looked back and been like, oh, shit, that sucks or whatever. The timing, it happens for a reason. It was a good experience, but everything worked out fine. I'm doing fine.
So you talked about the contentious relationships you've had with, one ring announcer in particular, but how is the camaraderie with the ring announcers in WWE? With Lillian and with like Justin Roberts and stuff?
Oh, great. I mean, I loved Lillian. I really did. I thought, and the thing with Lillian too, I had a respect for Lillian because she came in, she'd never been a ring announcer or anything like that. And I thought she turned herself into a pretty damn good ring announcer. And I didn't know what to expect, but that first night first afternoon we sat together in Oklahoma City and went over stuff. She was awesome. She was as helpful as she could be. She was great. She ended up, I got an email when she released her first album. She was having an album release party in New York City, and I got sent an invitation for it. Like, we really became, I was like, oh, I'm not going to this, but that was cool. and Justin was cool too. I mean, Justin kind of he was younger than me, but he had the same road as me, basically, working up from the indies and that kind of stuff. And then he ended up getting a look for WWE, and he made the most of it and did well and had a great career there. But he was cool too. I remember, I think he was announcing ECW at the time. So I remember whatever day it was for Raw, I had to be there at noon, and for SmackDown, I had to be there at 1. And it was like 4:00 in the afternoon, and Justin still wasn't there. I'm like, oh shit, something's wrong. He's got no travel or whatever. I'm going to end up doing ECW. This is going to be great. Then he comes strolling in at like 4:30, and I'm kind of like, what the hell? And he said, once they hire you and you're here, you can just show up whenever you want. Like, oh, Christ, okay, that's fine. But Tony Schimmel was a SmackDown ring announcer. He was hilarious. He was like, they were busting his balls. Like, I would be sitting out there at watching him kind of during SmackDown, and Mark Eaton was the timekeeper, and there were other production people, camera people would be coming up to him in between breaks. So, oh, Bobby's here to replace you. They're getting rid of you. You're too old. You're too fat or whatever. And he's like, I don't care. Whatever. I'm gone. Fine. Okay. He's here to replace me. Lillian used to have an entrance video they would announce the commentators with Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, whatever. They'd have their own entrance videos with their theme music, and Lillian had her own. So I would do that. After I did Heat, I would bring her out or whatever. So I remember the first night I did SmackDown, I'm standing in Gorilla with Chimmel, and I said, "Oh, after I do the stock match, do I introduce you and do you come out to a video and music?" And he says, "No." And I said, "Oh, why?" I said, "I did it last night with Lily." And he's like, "Because I'm not an effing diva." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, he was good shit. I mean, there was a good experience with everything. And I had to seek Vince McMahon out. I had not met him yet, never had met him. I had done the Oklahoma City stuff, still hadn't met him. I didn't know if I was going to be back after the Tuesday in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'm like, at least thank him for the opportunity. I mean, that was always my goal, was to hold the WWE mic, and especially on TV. So I kind of stood over near the door as I knew he had to go out. I didn't care how long it took. And I stood there. And he came walking by, and I kind of just put my hand down, and I said, "Oh, I just want to thank you for the opportunity." And he looked at me, and this is another quote I'll never forget. He says, "Bobby, you did a hell of a job." And then he paused, and he says, "Next time, try not to be so Howard Finkel-ish." So, like, that was kind of the buzz. That was kind of the buzz backstage. They thought I sounded too much like Howard. But yeah, it was definitely fun, and to see some of the old guys. Like, I remember like walking backstage the first SmackDown, because Punk was on ECW at that point, and we ran into each other at like 1 PM in the hallway, and he said, "Oh, I heard you were going to be here, blah blah blah. It's good, and just to see some old friends too, it's pretty cool."
So you stuck with Ring of Honor, and some 12 years later, you're still there. You've been through like so many administrations, like the Gabe Sapolsky era. Then it was Adam Pearce, then Delirious. I mean, HDNet, Destination America. I mean, the sale to Sinclair. Jeez, like so much stuff. What sticks out to you in terms of your career with Ring of Honor?
I get asked a lot, what's your favorite match? And that's so hard to pick. Like, they even Ring of Honor asked me, as part of the video package for the opening for the pay-per-view for the 15th or 16th anniversary that we just had in Vegas recently. It's so hard over so many years to be sitting that close and to pick out matches. I picked out moments, and, one was in the New Yorker Hotel in New York City with, Joe versus Kobashi, which that atmosphere was ridiculous. And I'm sure Todd's going to hear me use the word atmosphere, and he's going to go banana. But he likes when I use that word. But, that was one. And another one that I used in that promo was, Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson in Liverpool, England, pure title versus world title unification. I mean, Nigel being from England and everything, that thing was awesome too. But, I've always said that one thing has remained consistent is our product inside the ring has always been top flight. And, over the years, obviously, there's been guys that have come and gone and come back again and whatever, and the roster turnover. But the one thing that's always somehow remained consistent is the product inside the ring. And, this was some lean years as far as what we were doing, and there's different storylines or different stuff we did. But overall, everything's been solid. And I think it's a testament to the athletes that come in. And I'm not kissing Malonis' ass because he's on here, but here's a perfect example. A guy who's been on the indies for years and gets an opportunity and comes in and is excelling and doing things. And there's so many guys like that have come in. When somebody moves on to whether it's NXT or WWE directly or leaves, and it's just because it's more time in New Japan or whatever, that all that does is open up a spot for someone else. And every time that's happened, somebody steps up and seizes the opportunity. So I think that's been the biggest thing. The other thing that's changed over the years is just our production overall. Going from the stuff that we had back when I first joined the company in 2004, then we started doing tape pay-per-views and things improved a little bit to the HDNet. And now we had Mark Cuban money with HDNet putting some stuff into our production. And then obviously with Sinclair, not only are they a television broadcast, company and distributor, but they have some money that they put into the production of us inside the arenas and so forth, with lighting and our video screens and all that stuff. So things have just gotten better. So I always said for a long time that I didn't think our production matched our quality inside the ring. I always thought the strongest part of what we did was our athletes inside the ring, no matter who was on the roster at the time. But now things have evened out a little bit. We still have the great action, and that's not a slam on the athletes in the ring. I'm just saying our production has come up and kind of, I don't want to say matched what's going on inside the ring, but it's balanced it off a little more. I used to get very frustrated because I'm like, these guys are busting their ass in the ring and they're doing this and they're doing that, and we're not producing it right. We're not putting it out there right so it can be seen and to get turned on to the product. And now with the video packages we do and the in-arena production and all that stuff, it's a little more even. So I think now, especially over the past 6 months to a year, we have kind of more of a total package I've had in my 14 plus years.
So through all the ups and downs and, the improvements in the production and all that stuff, do you walk out there in New Orleans in that building and take have some personal pride when you see, that building packed to the rafters?
Yeah, I actually did, Mike, last year when we were in Florida when we did the Bucks and Hardys in that ladder match. I actually had it there. I remember taking some pictures of the crowd as I was sitting at my table. And I'm like, all right, look at this. I mean, this is pretty good. So then you just add even, a couple more thousand to that this year in New Orleans. Yeah, absolutely. There's some pride in that. There's so many times in whatever. I'm not the typical guy. Like I admit, I admit I like chick flicks. I admit I like love songs or whatever, as Todd will tell you. But
I heard about Hall & Oates. I did hear about that.
Yeah, among others.
Don't let Crockett fool you. He's into the same stuff.
I love a good love song.
I will literally, there's so many times where I've sat at my table and I've seen like a moment or something where our Ring of Honor athletes have done something and I just heard the crowd chanting ROH or whatever, just the reaction that they've done. And I literally just get that feeling like of immense pride, really. It's been, and there's so many times where I've rewinded in my mind and I'm like, all right, what if I left here in 06? I wouldn't have this. So I've definitely had those moments. It happens a lot where you just really take pride in the company overall and also what these guys are doing, because when it comes down to it, it's all about the guys inside the ring. It's not about the improved lighting and the improved video packages by editors that are awesome now or whatever, live TV. It's not about that. It's about that can all be great. But if the guys inside the ring suck, then we're done, and they don't and never have. And that's the best part of everything.
You talked about the understudy that you have, the young ring announcer who's doing some ROH shots. You're doing a little less. Now, do you see like a light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see you leaving anytime soon?
It's a funny question. I don't know. To me, you hear all the time, you hear athletes say, I mean, Tom Brady has said it. If I suck, then I know it's time to go, and I have thought several times, the first person to know that I'm losing it, quote unquote, will be me. And I don't know how that happens for a ring announcer. I guess it would just be a feeling. I had it a few years ago. Maybe I want to say I had it towards the end of Carrie owning the company. I kind of wondered, I'm like, oh man, like, can I do this anymore? Am I as good at it as I was before or whatever? And maybe it was a little rut. Maybe it was a little lack of confidence. I don't know. But I don't have it now. I have, Ring of Honor. We were talking about a new contract at the end of last year. And, going back and forth like contracts do. And they basically said, well, we want you to sign for 2 years if we do this. And I had never signed a 2-year contract before. It was always 1 year at a time. And I said, I thought about it, and, they were being agreeable. I thought it was a fair thing. And I'm like, all right. So I signed it for 2 years. So that takes me to the end of 2019. Is there another deal beyond 2019? I have no idea. I have no idea what their plans are. I'm 45 now. I feel fine. The schedule is not so hectic, and they realize I have a real job. They realize, that I have my daughters. So Ring of Honor has been very good with me and stuff like that. Just like, going to Pittsburgh, doing TV, and then flying back home so Nick could do Columbus because it was a drive for him, that kind of thing. We have that, very good relationship. They've been really good with me. So to me, is the end in sight? No, but I don't know. I mean, it could be that, at the end of 2019, where I'll be, pushing 47, that that maybe they want to go with someone in their late 20s. I don't know, but to me, I'm good. And if that day does come, and they want to decide to do that, like I won't be like the bitch before me in Ring of Honor. I will fully embrace the decision, and I would hope that maybe I could do something behind the scenes at that time. Where I could, I don't know, work in production or work in Gorilla or whatever. You don't know. I mean, it's really almost it's 21 months away or whatever. Who knows? But right now, I'm comfortable in everything. I'm happy that we have Nick. He's a great kid. He's eager. He's so respectful of me and asking my opinion on things. And our play-by-play guy Ian Riccaboni actually, I think it's Sunday night or Monday. I woke up and I saw a tweet where he had said Nick Lendl did a great job in Columbus, and it warms my heart to see how Bobby has taken to him or something like that. And yeah, I mean, what do you want to do? Bury the guy? I mean, no. If he was an asshole, I'd bury him. Absolutely. He wouldn't even be around. But he's a good kid. If he sticks it out and stays with Ring of Honor, yeah, he's probably he's the heir apparent, probably. But who knows with him either? I mean, he's good, so he could have other opportunities, other places. Who knows? But to me, I have no plans. Okay, contract's up at end of 2019, so Final Battle, say 2019 is my last event for Ring of Honor. No, I don't have anything like that in my head right now.
Well, we've mentioned him throughout this interview, and I guess we're going to talk about him. Your life mate when it comes to the travels for Ring of Honor, Todd Sinclair. Now, he also talked about atmosphere and how you love a good atmosphere. Yeah. Do you take pleasure in taking him to all these bars and restaurants to enjoy the atmosphere?
I used to. I don't get the opportunity anymore because we don't travel together anymore. Really.
What?
Well, he's got other responsibilities now behind the scenes. So I think he pulled some strings where we don't even room together anymore.
Wow.
Last weekend in Pittsburgh, I flew in Friday night and I was rooming with Ian Riccaboni. So obviously that was my roommate Friday and Saturday night. So yeah, Todd has
he's upgraded roommates.
Yeah. Why? Who is it? You?
Yes.
Yeah. What do we mean by upgrade?
I think better company.
Wait. Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yes, better company. We'll go with that. Yes, we'll go with up north. I'm a Southern Mass person, so. But I don't know.
You don't take him to Buffalo Wild Wings for old time's sake?
Oh, we went to Buffalo Wild Wings this weekend, didn't we, Bobby?
In Pittsburgh, this was amazing. So I'm driving back. I'm just going to grab gas because I had a 6:30 flight Sunday out of Pittsburgh, while everyone else, they were going to go to Columbus late Sunday morning. So I was just going to look for a gas station so I didn't have to fill the rental before returning it so early in the morning. And I drove, and I'm like, oh, there's a Wild Wings. And as I'm driving by, Todd texted me and said, hey, we're at Wild Wings near the hotel. So I popped in. Like, I literally walked in, Malone? It's 5 minutes later? Not even?
Not even. No, it was like you came in with us.
Todd said, oh, that was quick. They didn't even order drinks yet. And I said, no, I was literally right here, right around the corner. So
all these years later, you finally broke Todd Sinclair. Now he enjoys Buffalo Wild Wings.
He went without me.
Wow. There wasn't a lot of options at 1 a.m.
That's valid too, especially in that area. So that was good.
Great atmosphere.
A great atmosphere. I mean, there's not the regular Wild Wings atmosphere because there's like nobody in there at 1 a.m. But okay. I mean, it was a great atmosphere. But
how about Bobby? How about Todd having to sit the entire meal with his head kind of down as to not see the Bruins score on any of the TVs?
So people listening to this that don't know that Todd Sinclair watches every single Bruins game, but he will not know a result or anything without watching it. So, for example, they played Saturday night when we had a TV taping in Pittsburgh. I'm sitting at my table. I'm checking on my phone the update of what's going on. He will not do that. He doesn't want to hear from anybody. He stays off social media. He doesn't want to know anything about it because he wants to make it all the way to Monday when he flies back home to watch the game. So now we're in Buffalo Wild Wings. So anyone's in Buffalo Wild Wings knows they have like the most TVs of any chain that there is. Now, none of them are really showing the game. Obviously, it was over, but there's a few showing highlights. And there's was another one had motocross on it or something.
Yeah.
Bottom line, right? That scroll along the bottom of the screen is showing all of the sports scores and results. So he would not look at it, which is a pretty good accomplishment in a place like Wild Wings with all those TVs. He would not look at a TV. I always joke that Todd would be watching the Bruins opening night, which is early October. He'd be watching around Thanksgiving. And then by the time the playoffs rolled around, he might be caught up. But
yeah, I don't know how do you do live sports like that on a DVR.
oh, it's crazy. He does it. It's amazing. But yeah, we've traveled so many roads together, so many different countries, multiple continents, and I think I've only legit pissed him off, like really pissed him off, maybe a handful of times. Like he's legit punched me 2 or 3 times, which isn't that bad.
If you know you, it's not that bad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not that bad. That's doable. Mac's wife did that too. So, but he basically would say that I would make him see red, and he would just snap. Well, he hates me. He's hated rooming with me. This is why I think he pulled some strings, because he hated rooming with me because his latest thing this year or into last year was I need sound. Like, for example, when I'm home, like right now, I have to put my fan on next to me because I have to sleep with sound. And like when I was a teenager, TV would work, but now if the TV's on because of the light, it'll keep me awake. I'm a wicked bitch light sleeper. So I had this like rain sound effects. Like I have forest rain, I have city rain, I have a bunch of different rains I can change to. And I'll put it as low as I can and keep it next to me, and he still bitches that it's too loud and it keeps him up, which I think he's overselling because I can't imagine that he can even hear it. But whatever. So I think that's one reason he's not rooming with me anymore. And another reason is because I always try to get him to see me naked. I've done that for years, which I get the biggest kick out of, and I have a story about that. So the Hammerstein Ballroom, this was last year, we always would stay in the same dressing room. And there's multiple dressing rooms at the Hammerstein Ballroom on different levels, whatever. Usually it would be me, Todd, Carrie Silken, with and then other people would kind of fill in next door. So there's this bathroom in our dressing room where if you walked by, looked to the right, if someone left the door open, all you would see was the back of them, basically. Now, for years and years, when we're rooming together, say we'd have a show somewhere on a Friday night, whatever, grab something to eat, we get back to the room, do whatever. He's in bed, and I'm taking a leak, and I would leave the door open. Now, he's in bed, but he can still tell the door is open, so he'd be, shut the door! He'd yell at me all the time. Yeah, he would every single time. That's probably what he's yelled the most to me ever is shut the door. But I would do it, and I'd be standing there taking a picture just laughing because I knew how much it pissed him off, as juvenile as it was. So this time at the Hammerstein, I left the door open, because he was up in the dressing room too. And I'm thinking to myself, now how can I get him? Like there's got to be a way, other than shut the door, there's got to be a way I can get him. So I side saddled the toilet. So instead of, I'm standing there. So instead of him walking and seeing my back, he saw me standing along the side of the toilet, and he got a clear view of everything. So sure enough, he goes walking by, and all I hear is "ah!" Like he was so mad, but I was so satisfied that I finally got him. It's been see how childish I could be. It's all in fun, but yeah, that was good. But I've said for years, I've done so many interviews or whatever. No offense, Crockett, but Pam,
right.
He's the best referee I've ever seen. I mean, just overall, the best referee I've ever seen. And we're really lucky. I mean, Paul Turner's been with Ring of Honor since day one. And he's number 2. But he gets overshadowed a lot because, Todd is just, it's so much in the spotlight with the world title matches and everything, but he's just so good. And it's been kind of cool to watch. Like, I consider the best referee in the world to see that up close for over 14 years. And people say all the time, well, okay, if you don't do it in the WWE, you can't be the best. Well, I think that's bullshit. I'm not going to be arrogant or whatever right now. I would say I'm better than any ring announcer WWE has right now. And Todd is the same thing as a referee. I mean, they have good referees and referees that have been there for years or whatever. But Todd, just overall, so the little things and things that a lot of the normal quote unquote people wouldn't notice, whatever, that I see. And then you hear, obviously, I mean, Malonis, you've been in there, whether it's chaotic and now with Ring of Honor. The things the guys say. They want him refereeing their matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's that good. So as much as I bust his balls, as much as I tortured him, and if he dies young of a heart attack, it'll probably be because of me, the stress I've caused him. It's still, in a serious moment, he's just the best that I've seen. So it's been quite a ride. A couple of guys from New England who just showed up randomly, basically in Ring of Honor, have worked the most main events in Ring of Honor history together. It's pretty good.
Yeah, this has been great to talk to you here, Bobby. It's been a little while. And before we go, I know
we're over, by the way. We're over time.
We are over time. We're way over.
Let's keep going.
Well, just before we go, you said you listened to an episode, but I don't think you've listened to us do an interview before. And sometimes we have listeners use their phones and give us questions, and we play them for the guest.
Oh, I was hoping for a name association, but okay, this is fine. All right,
well, let's take a listen here to our first question from a listener of the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing.
Oh, Christ.
Oh, I got the wrong thing here. Sorry.
That's Cena.
Hold on one second.
We're gonna go drink beer again.
Uh-oh.
He's Bobby Cruz. He's Bobby Cruz. Where's Bobby Cruz? There's Bobby Cruz.
So sorry about that.
That's not nice. I've heard all about that. Oh, believe me, I've heard that one. Todd loves to put my name at the songs. I've heard "Shut Up, You're Bobby Cruz." Like to shut up and dance.
Well, how about this one?
Bobby Cruz, he's watching you. He sees your every move.
Well, Hall & Oates, see? Hall & Oates is good.
Hall & Oates, call back.
Oh, my God. Did Todd ever tell you the story about where he got his niece to sing "Shut Up, You're Bobby Cruz"? And his brother
I saw it. He sent it to me.
His brother Kyle was pissed.
You're Bobby Cruz. You're Bobby Cruz. You're Bobby Cruz. It's true.
See, my name is a love song also.
All right, I'll play one more.
Oh, good.
One more by special request.
I love Bobby Cruz, so put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love Bobby Cruz. Come and take the time and dance with me.
So you enjoy these, or I got the impression that maybe you didn't enjoy these so much when they happen on long car rides.
I don't enjoy when Todd would sing them on long car rides. Like, he would do it to me all the time. Like the Cena one he told me about, he sang that for me. I guess I'm laughing now. They're pretty funny. I don't like the live renditions from him. That's for sure. But I really did love the one where he said his niece was singing my name and his brother, the nerd, got really mad. Like, that made me happy. But yeah, and it's funny because people think my name is a rib. People think my name is fake. Like, I guess it sounds, I mean, it obviously goes well with songs, but people think my name is fake, and whatever, it's fine. I assure everyone that's my real name. Providence, Rhode Island's own, not Fall River.
So you and Todd, you give each other a hard time, but you love each other at the end of the day.
I love him. I don't know if he loves me. I would say, like, I like him probably like a 9.5 out of 10. If you asked him, he'd probably say he likes me like a 3.5 out of 10. But I mean, it's just.
I think he called you a rotten human being on this podcast.
Rotten. See, that's a terrible thing. Like, I think I'm a good person. Like, if I don't like you, I'm the biggest asshole you've ever met. But if I don't have a problem with you, or if I like you on top of that, then I'm golden. Like, I try my best as a dad and everything. So I don't know. That might have been in jest. I hope so. I'm not rotten.
I think it's mostly in jest. Yeah, I think you guys are good.
Oh, piece of shit.
All right, well, this has been fantastic, Bobby Cruz. It's been, I don't know why I delayed so long in having you on the podcast.
Because I have nothing to do with chaotic. We didn't even talk about, like, when I filled in for that hack Rich Palladino as the shows where he got suspended, where the fans were crapping on me every show, and I was like the heel ring announcer of chaotic. Maybe next time.
Thank you very much, Bobby, for being on the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing.
When does the check come in?
It's in the mail, my friend.